Welcome to the Hyperledger Greenhouse, an open-source consortium for developing business blockchain technologies hosted by the Linux Foundation. Within the Greenhouse, diverse global communities collaboratively develop open-source projects that uniquely approach enterprise blockchain challenges. These technologies can cross-pollinate and interoperate, just like how the communities driving the projects collaborate in an open and neutral environment. Hyperledger Fabric is an enterprise-grade permissioned distributed ledger platform in the Hyperledger Greenhouse that offers modularity and versatility for a broad set of industry use cases. The modular architecture for Fabric accommodates the diversity of enterprise use cases through plug-and-play components such as consensus, privacy, and membership services. One of the many compelling Fabric features is the enablement of a network of networks. Members of a network work together, but because businesses need some of their data to remain private, they often maintain separate relationships within their networks. Rather than an open, permissionless system, Fabric offers a modular, scalable, and secure platform that supports private transactions and confidential contracts. Fabric helps members manage confidential obligations to each other without first passing it through a central authority. That way, personal data isn't available to the entire network. If a member is not an agreed-upon party, the transaction shouldn't appear on their ledger. This architecture allows for solutions developed with Fabric to be adapted for any industry, thus ushering in a new era of trust, transparency, and accountability for businesses. Get started with Hyperledger Fabric today by downloading the source code, accessing the documentation, and joining our community from our website, hyperledger.org.
Hello everybody, it's Max with Crypto Talk Now. On the previous Jasmy deep dive in regards to the update of data free flow with trust, at the end of the video, I decided that I was going to split up the video because I don't want to make it too long and make a separate deep dive video for Hyperledger Fabric in regards to Jasmy and why Jasmy chose Hyperledger Fabric. In the past, I, of course, showed you guys some evidence to show you that, yes, Jasmy uses Hyperledger Fabric. And then later on, about roughly was a month or two later, we did get confirmation from Hara that, yes, Jasmy does in fact use Hyperledger Fabric, and that, of course, is important. Now, what I want to jump into in regards to today is just that, why Jasmy chose Hyperledger, right? So let's jump into this and why it's going to make so much sense for you. All right, so I want to show you this, and I do have some English subtitles for you guys, because this guy, he speaks English, but it might be a little bit hard to hear. And then if you follow with the subtitles, it does make it a lot easier. I'm not going to play his whole video, but I am going to play to basically I don't know, about roughly the 6-minute and 28-second mark. So I'll give you a little background in regards to this real quick. So this was originally published on October 6, 2022. This is a demo, infrastructure for managing, sharing, and utilizing sensitive data using Hyperledger, right? And, here's some more info in regards to this, okay? So if you've been following my deep dives, about roughly 3 to 4 times now, I have done an outline on why DFT, data free flow with trust, is worth paying attention, especially if you're a Jasmy holder or a long-term Jasmy holder, right? Maybe not so much if you're a short-term swing trader for Jasmy, I don't know. But whatever the case be, if you're a long-term holder, this is worth paying attention to. So, we understand that back in 2019, DFFT was advocated, right? Shinzo Abe introduced it to the WEF. But it says, especially for some domains such as medical institutions and governments, this was something that was advocated, right? Where privacy protection is essential. Now think about this for a moment. Medical institutions. We know with Jasmy, there is the CARE project, and we know that that is big time tied into medical. We also cover that in regards to governments. We understand that DFFT simply makes sense. You are literally getting the regulatory framework really starting to take motion. The ball is basically rolling, is it not? Right? So there's that. It says where privacy protection is essential, it must handle sensitive data, such as healthcare data and personal information. Distributed ledger technologies such as Hyperledger Fabric make it possible to share data among multiple organizations with trust. However, it is not suitable for sensitive data because the distributed ledger discloses store data to all organizations. Hyperledger Fabric has implemented features such as channel and private data collection to handle sensitive data. So they recognized back then that was an issue, but if anything, it's been fixed or updated, right? In addition, Hyperledger Fabric private chain code allows transactions and data to be executed in a confidential manner by running chain code on a trusted execution environment. Now, we're not getting into all the specifics, right? But I thought I'd mention it, which is a CPU security feature. However, it requires a special machine with TEE. At the beginning of this presentation, Koshi, who's the guy that's going to be doing all the talking, will introduce one of their use cases and show how to run Fabric private chain code with Microsoft Azure. Now, while this is going to play, I'm going to pause a few key areas because I want to draw significance to why we should pay attention to that. So I am going to full screen it. I will pause it. You'll hear me. But let's go ahead and play this. Here we go.
Hello, I'm Koshi Ikegawa from Hitachi Research and Development Group at Japan. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to present my work. Today, I'd like to talk about infrastructure for managing, sharing, and utilizing sensitive data using Hyperledger Fabric private chain code running on Microsoft Azure. This is the contents of this presentation. First, I will explain some background on the market needs and explain introduction. Background. According to the World Economic Forum 2019, the realization of data free flow with trust, DFFT, is a top priority for the new economy. As a mean to realize DFFT, we expect the utilize of blockchain technology. A feature of blockchain is that transactions and data content are shared and written to a ledger by all participating organizations. There are open data that can be shared by all organizations, and there are sensitive data that needs to be controlled to whom it is shared. When handling sensitive data, privacy protection is required by laws. Hyperledger Fabric private chain code enables the execution of chain codes using trusted execution environment for Hyperledger Fabric. It protects the privacy of chain code data and computation from potentially untrusted peers. It allows to write chain code application where the data is encrypted on the ledger and can only be accessed in clear by authorized organizations and/or users. A trusted execution environment is a security feature that prevents external attacks by executing program in an area called an enclave that is isolated from the operating system. There are technologies that create enclaves on memory as a function of the CPU, such as Intel SGX and ARM Trust Zone. Other technologies that make the virtual machine itself an enclave. The Fabric private chain code implementation uses Intel SGX. Intel SGX is an Intel CPU feature that creates an encrypted area called an enclave in random access memory. And it loads programs and data into enclave, allowing programs to be executed while protecting sensitive data. I explain why we choose Microsoft Azure for running Fabric private chain code. By using virtual machines created using infrastructure as a service, there is no need to prepare or manage your own mass hardware. However, only a few infrastructure as a service providers offer virtual machines with Intel SGX that can use Fabric private chain code. Microsoft Azure can create virtual machines with built-in Intel CPUs that can use Intel SGX. In this section, I will explain our motivation for this presentation. I introduce our use case. We created an infrastructure to manage and utilize genome data in multiple organizations. In this use case, multiple organizations are participating in a blockchain network for genome data sharing. A focus point, raw genome data must not be passed on to other organizations because the data is sensitive data. Therefore, analyze the data on the processor of the data owner organization and pass only the results to other organizations. This use case scenario will be explained in more detail in the demonstration section below. Our related work system architecture have a problem when handling sensitive data. The problem is that the unrelated organization can access the details of the transaction of organization 1 and organization 2. Our motivation is to solve the problem by keeping transactions and data exchanges secret from unrelated organizations. We can keep transactions and data exchange secret from unrelated organizations using Fabric private chain code.
Now, let's just pause for just a moment, right? There's obviously some things that you just mentioned, but look what's mentioned here, okay? So on the top part, this is something to definitely pay attention to. So it says background, data free flow with trust. Notice how it mentions specifically Hitachi. It says inspire the next. We're going to have something that's really juicy in regards to Hitachi here in a bit. But data free flow with trust, DFT, is a top priority for the new economy, according to the WEF 2019, right? And we've seen how, like I mentioned in the previous deep dive, how we went from Shinzo Abe, right, at the time who introduced this, and as time went by, kind of like passed the torch, if you will, in regards to DFFT to, Tara Kono. And then we also saw what recently happened in regards to DFFT, some of the updates. But what's really, really worth paying attention is what it says here on this video. Blockchain is expected to be used as a means to realize DFFT, right? What do we know about Jasmy in regards to data free flow with trust, right? We understand that with Jasmy, they use Hyperledger Fabric, right? And of course, that's big because before, Hyperledger Fabric, right? It's pretty impressive technology in itself, but this whole concept of what we've been mentioning for quite a while in regards to DFFT is big because we understand now that Jasmy, there's reasons why they selected Hyperledger Fabric. Think about it, guys. And think about why so many content creators that, share Jasmy news, whether it's Level 8, myself, Brian, and so on, why we put so much emphasis on DFFT. it simply makes sense that Jasmy selected Hyperledger Fabric. And like it says, the feature of blockchain is that transactions and data contents are shared and written to a ledger by all participating organizations. They're open data that can be shared by all organizations, and there's sensitive data that needs to be controlled to whom it is shared. And of course, that's why we understand this guy's sharing this. There was an update in regards to Hyperledger Fabric, but we're going to go ahead and play a little bit more in regards to this. Right. Think about that for a second. You know, Jasmy always talks about personal data lockers, right? You know, protecting data. So wouldn't you want to have something that is going to protect data and computation from potentially untrusted peers through the likes of what? Through the likes of Hyperledger Fabric. So, I mean, as a Jasmy holder, this instills that much more confidence into the project, at least for me. It makes me that much more bullish because, you know, we talk about, you know, trust, right? Chain codes using trusted execution environment, TEE for Fabric, Hyperledger Fabric, right? Maybe some of these guys over at Jasmy knew what the heck they were doing by selecting Hyperledger Fabric, guys. Think about it for a second. This simply makes sense. You know, some people are, you know, like I said, you know, may not like these types of deep dives because, you know, they just want the fluff. I don't give fluff. What I like to do is I like to take deep dives. I like to give you guys a broader perspective of why these things are worth paying attention to. You know, this is why we give you the nitty gritty of all of this. Because you know what? If I'm invested heavily into some of this stuff, I want to know about the nitty gritty. And I know a lot of you guys do too. Let's talk about that real quick. Can only be accessed and clear by authorized party, organizations, and so on. You know, like at some point, if you're a person who holds Jasmy in Japan and so on, and you you know, you have that personal, you know, PDL, personal data locker and so on, and then you decide, hey, you know, I want to monetize this, there can only be certain authorized parties. Again, what's going to solve this? What's going to allow this to happen is through Hyperledger Fabric. All right, let's pause right there. So as you can see, it says keep transactions and data secret from unrelated organizations using what? Fabric private chain code, right? This is the whole, again, this pounds home that much more why Jasmy selected Hyperledger Fabric. This simply makes sense. Yeah, that last part's good too. You know, keep it secret by using private chain code. Okay, so let me come back into the frame. Glad to share that with you guys. That was really, really cool stuff. You know, it's one thing to say, oh, hey, you know, Jasmy uses, you know, Hyperledger Fabric. Oh, that's cool. Sounds really cool. Do you know why they use Hyperledger Fabric? Now we know why they use Hyperledger Fabric. And to think about this, it specifically mentions DFFT, data free flow with trust. Are we not understanding the bigger picture? Now, for all those people who are saying, well, I don't like you using these examples for Jasmy. This is a nothing burger because, you know, DFFT is separate from Jasmy. Okay, understand that Jasmy runs on Hyperledger Fabric. So is it really a nothing burger? No, it's not. It's very important to pay attention to some of these things. At least it is for me. All right, I'm going to jump into this next part. We did talk about Hitachi earlier, did we not? Well, I want to show you guys this. And this was posted a while back, but this is definitely worth paying attention to. So, you know, what I like here is it states specifically this right here. It says no credit card needed with Hitachi's fingerprint payment system, right? This was posted like, oh man, maybe about a year ago, right? But one of the key things I want you guys to see here is, you know, like it says here, according to the Jasmy post in the link above, Qujit is partnered with Hitachi. Now, we've done, of course, a deep dive in Qujit, right? I'm not trying to make another deep dive in regards to Qujit, but this is worth paying attention to. And the reason why it's worth paying attention to is for what I'm going to outline here in just a bit. And that is, look what it says. Hitachi and Jasmy is partnered with Qujit. Qujit is part of Sony Group, and Sony and Hitachi, yes, Hitachi, have been partners and clients for years. VAIO computers come with components from companies such as Intel processors, Seagate. I used to have a Seagate process or a hard drive, right? ID hard drive. It was the biggest at the time. It was a 500 gig hard drive. That was a big deal back in the early 2000s for you guys that are nerds. Anyway, but yeah, like it says, Seagate technology, Hitachi, Fujitsu, or Toshiba hard drives, Infineon or Elpida RAM, Theros and Intel wireless chipsets. But listen to this. Sony, usually made by Hitachi. Listen to this. This is kind of the aha moment. Or Matsushita optical drives, Intel, NVIDIA, or AMD graphics cards and Sony speakers. Recent laptops have been shipped with Commanda RAM, HP speakers with Realtek high-def audio systems and so on. But the key thing is usually made by Hitachi, right? Why is that important? Well, the reason why it's important is this right here. And it states Hitachi itself will not own the personal data. It will use blockchain technology, ooh, the juicy stuff, to keep a record of data retrievals and ensure the authenticity of the information. That's worth pointing out. Now, you may be thinking, well, can I get a source, Max? I mean, that sounds cool, and you're getting this from Reddit, so you need to provide a source. Absolutely, I provide a source. Here's the source. Comes from Nikkei Asia, all right? And I'll just jump to the part. Boom. Nothing like a good old Control F. Always tell my students, use Control F. Don't use a regular textbook. Use the ebook. It saves us so much time. Talking about Web3 for crying out loud. Why aren't we using modern technology? Anyway, besides the point. So it says the main function of the new ID system will be to call up information from public offices and other places, and it will supply it to complete the transaction. Hitachi itself will not own the personal data. It will use blockchain technology to keep a record of data retrievals and ensure authenticity of the information. Think about what was outlined. How many times Sony, like it says on the previous one, just in case you missed it, you know, Sony right here, usually made by Hitachi, right? They have these partnerships. Qujit is partnered with Hitachi and Jasmy. Qujit is part of Sony Group, and Sony and Hitachi have been partners and clients for years. It's just unbelievable. Use blockchain technology to keep a record of data retrievals. Man. That's just all I got to say. I mean, like, maybe this was something that was reported many years ago. It probably was, you know. But for us newcomers, we need to be reminded about some of this stuff. At least I want to be reminded about it. So glad to share this with you guys. The way I look at it, it's worth pointing out. But the key thing, not necessarily is the Hitachi thing. That's big in itself. But the key thing for me and the key thing for you should be the whole idea of why Jasmy uses Hyperledger Fabric. Like when we say the writing is on the wall, well, the writing is literally right there. The guy from Hyperledger Fabric giving you that presentation, specifically mentioning DFFT, and we understand where Japan is moving forward with data free flow with trust, understanding why that's so big for you as a Jasmy holder. I had to point that out. And when I stumbled upon the information, I said, the community needs to know about this. So glad to bring it to you guys. Not the longest of deep dives of the day, right? Might be a breath of fresh air, but at the end of the day, thank you so much for watching our content. Like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell notification if you haven't done so already. I am so much more bullish on Jasmy, probably than I ever been before with some of these recent findings, and especially if you haven't seen the last Jasmy video in regards to data free flow with trust and why that is so big. That regulatory framework to get us to that clarity if we get that institutional money coming in. You know, some people who don't understand market cap and so on, don't realize that institutional money is where we get the most insane amount of market cap we've never seen before in the history of crypto. Yes, there's going to be a time, like people have mentioned, where you're going to see like 90 to 99% of crypto is going away. Maybe that's what's going on right now as we speak, and why the SEC is going after all this. SEC is labeled, what, 61 to 67 cryptos as securities. Are they going to get to the point where they just label all securities? We'll see. We'll have to see. But at the end of the day, it's all worth paying attention to. Know what you have, know what you hold, know why you hold it. The research always trumps the fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt if you truly believe in it, and the reasons for why you took the time to read up more about it, or listen on audio version, or driving down the road, or watching me on your phone, or other content creators who cover Jasmy. Thanks again for watching, everybody. I won't keep you any more further. Know why you hold Jasmy. We'll see you on the next one.